Okay, so welcome back, and we're going to jump into this last section of Chapter 9, 9.4, that we're covering for Math 120. So perimeter, area, and circumference. So we're going to have a lot of formulas in this section. So the first thing we have to just reaffirm is what some of these concepts that we've talked about before, what they mean officially. So the first one is just for perimeter. So if we wanted the perimeter of a polygon, it's going to be a polygon or a figure. So it doesn't have to be straight line sides. It could be wavy or curvy or something. It's the sum of the lengths of the sides or the outside border. So just how long is it all the way around the outside? Now, if we have some concrete polygons, we will get some concrete formulas. So the first one is if we have a triangle, the perimeter of a triangle, and then we're going to use capital P with lengths A, B, and C. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that this does not imply that it's a right triangle. It's any triangle. So it could be acute, it could be isosceles, it could be anything. So if we have a triangle and we got A, B, and C, we're just adding up all three sides, whatever they are. All right, the next one is for a rectangle. And we know what a rectangle looks like, but the shortcut for the formula is going to be 2L plus 2W. So if we have our rectangle and we got a width, we have another width, we have a length, and another length. So really, if we wanted to not even use a formula, we can just say, okay, I'm just going to go around the border. Length plus width plus length plus width. But it's going to be a lot more compact if we can batch stuff together. So we can batch together the two L's, we can batch together the two W's, and so we get the shorter formula from that. The last one is, for now, is going to be the square. So we know what a square looks like. We know all the sides are the same length. So they like to use S as the length of the side. So if we draw that in, and we got S's all around. So again, same idea. We can expand it out, excuse me, and just add up all four sides individually like this. But again, it's a lot faster if we just batch them together and say we got four S's. So just multiply it by 4. All right. So let's take a look at a few problems. A yard is in the shape of a rectangle. So we got a visual of what that looks like. Has one side 28 yards and the other's 32. How much fencing is needed to enclose it? Nice and easy. So we got 32, 28. Don't forget the units. So again, those are replicated opposite from those sides. So if we wanted to write it in, we can, but we don't have to, obviously. So in this case, we're just going to say 2 times the 32. And you can see I'm using parentheses purposefully. Anytime you replace a letter, a variable, with a number, you should use parentheses. It's a good practice. And we can replace the W with 28. Now, it doesn't matter which one you call the length or which one you call the width. It's just a matter of, usually the longer one is the length and the shorter one's the width, but it doesn't matter. So now we can just multiply and then add those together. So we end up with 120. Now, the units are very important for this section, so don't forget the units. So anytime it's perimeter, it's just a linear length all the way around. So you don't need to do anything fancy with the units. You just have to tack them on. So 120 yards. All right. So what about the next one? What are the dimensions of a square plot if its perimeter is 60 meters? So now they're twisting it a little bit. So we have a square. We know that much. But the perimeter is 60 meters. So how can we kind of deconstruct that to find out the length of the side? Well, we always have a formula that's associated with one of these shapes. So based on the information they give you, you should be able to associate a formula with it. So for this one, we know the formula is P equals 4S. But now we can replace the perimeter with the 60. So we're not replacing the S, we're replacing the P. So we got 60 equals 4S, and now how do we get rid of the 4? You got it. There's my dinger. 4. If we divide by 4, that's going to tell us that S equals 15 meters. All right, so start to get into the habit of always associating a formula with a specific shape and based on what they're trying to find. All right, let's do a couple more, and then we'll pause for the next video. All right, we got a couple more here. So a stained glass window in a church is in the shape of a square, okay? We got a square. The perimeter of the square is 7 times the length of a side in meters, decreased by 12. Okay, so we're going to come to that in a minute. Find the length of the side of the window. All right, so let's get a picture and start snapping lead. Now, we do have a formula for squares, so let's write that down. So we have P equals 4S. That's always going to be the case if it's perimeter of a square. We know that's got to be true. But they're giving you another statement that's also true at the same time. So again, we don't know what the side of the square is. That's what we want to find. But now let's deconstruct this statement. It says the perimeter of the square, which is P, is equals 7 times the length of a side. Well, S is the length of a side, so 7 times that decreased by 12. Well, decreased is subtraction, right? So we're going to subtract 12 from that. So all you're doing is just trying to translate that as you read it. Excuse me, sorry. All right, so now we have a weird dichotomy going on here. We got two things that are true. You know, this is equal to P, 4S is equal to P, and you got P is equal to this. So how does that help us get to an equation where we can find out what S is? Well, since both of these are equal to P, these pieces are going to have to be equal to each other. So all we're going to do is just get rid of the P's and just work with the two sides together. So we're going to put one of them on one side. I'll put the 7S minus 12 on the left, and I'll put the 4S on the right. So now the only variable is the S, so we can now solve for it. Now, you can do a couple of different starter steps. You know, usually we like to move the smaller S over, but I'm going to move the 12 first just to make it a little bit nicer looking. So let's get rid of the 12. So we got 7S equals 4S plus 12, and now we can get rid of the 4S. Now some of you are saying, well, couldn't we have just moved the 7S over? And the answer is yeah, you could have. It would have gave you the same answer. So we got 3S is equal to 12, and then we're going to have to divide. So we got S is equal to 4. And don't forget the units, so S equals 4 meters. All right, so not terrible, but sometimes they try to build up the difficulty in these, so just keep that in mind. But try to always start with a formula and see what you know about those pieces of that formula. Right, one more. A lot is in the shape of a triangle. One side is 100 feet longer than the shortest side, while the third side is 200 feet longer than the shortest side. The perimeter of the lot is 1,200 feet. Find the lengths of the sides of the lot. Okay, so we need a triangle now. Okay, so it says that one side is 100 feet longer than the shortest side, and the other one is 200 feet longer than the shortest side. So really we need to know what that shortest side is first. So if x is equal to the shortest side, how can we describe those other two sides now? One of them is 100 feet longer than it. So longer than is addition, right? And then the third side's 200 feet longer than the shortest. So again, it's still comparing it to x. So that's going to be x plus 200. Now again, you can reverse that around. You could have said 100 plus x and 200 plus x. It would have been the same thing. But now we got all three sides. So what do we know about all three sides together? It's equal to 1,200 feet. So now we can get our equation. We need all three sides added together equal to the 1,200. And now we're on our way. So let's get our x's together. So we got three of them. Let's combine the 100 and the 200 to get 300. And so now what do we do next? What do we get rid of? We got to get rid of that 300, right? So we'll lose the 300. So that gives you 3x equals 900. And then last step is to divide. So we get x is equal to 300. Now, again, don't stop there. Don't stop with what x is or what s is or whatever. Always finish off the problem. Make sure you're answering the question. It wants to find the lengths of the sides of the lot, so it wants all three sides. So we know this one here is 300 feet. This one is 400 feet. And this one must be 500 feet. So now you can check. You got 400 and 500 is 900, plus another 300 is 1,200. So we're good to go. Okay, so let's stop there, and then we'll pick up the rest, or pick up some more, I should say, in the next video. See you in a minute.